So a key theme I think I was hearing today was how hard we are on ourselves, how sometimes we are a barrier to ourselves. And I was like, that so resonates with me. That's what I wanted to talk about. So first of all, thank you, Uma, for this opportunity to talk to this fantastic group of women. And I think there was a man at some point, I'm not sure. But this very like-minded group of professionals, very inspiring to hear and be here. It's a privilege I genuinely appreciate. Thank you, Fabiana, for all the energy you're bringing into this. When I told my family about this event and this topic I had chosen about embracing change and through life's transitions, my teenage kid's typical reaction was, "Oh, just go to ChatGPT. It'll spit you out a 10-minute speech and you'll be done." I'm like, now I know how your homeworks get done so quickly. Uh, but it's never going to know how I personally feel about embracing change and especially embracing the change of going from an individual contributor to a leadership role in the workplace. So when I sat down to kind of write my thoughts, my husband said, "Why this topic out of all?" And I realized that there was a strong personal reason behind it. Change actually frightens me. So maybe not as much now as it did when I was much younger, but it does. And I made some career choices, which in retrospective, I wish I hadn't. So I'm hoping as I change something deeply personal, it's relatable to you, inspire some of you if you're experiencing something similar. And then I wondered, where do I start? What is it about change that makes it so hard for so many of us to embrace it? Are we afraid of the change itself, or are we afraid of the effort that it would require to change? Um, and then I thought back to all the different transitions that we go through in life, right? You go to a new school, going to college, starting a new job, getting married, new city, getting pregnant. And for me, the most nerve-wracking one out of all of them is raising a teenage daughter right now. So many of you, I'm sure, can relate to these. Every transition is a challenge. We embrace or resist them in our own ways. And if any of you have thoughts or stories on how you embraced or resisted a change, a key transition in your life, please share that in chat. Would love to learn from that. So my own resistance to change came when I was being pushed into a leadership role at a time when I was going through a very key transition in life. So this came when I was a young mother of a toddler and a newborn. My manager at that time, a powerhouse of a woman, she was leading a group of us to create a transformational PMO. She pulled me aside to tell me that she was going to put me in her succession plan. And as flattered as I was that she had chosen me, I vigorously shook my head and said, "Are you kidding me? I barely have time to brush my hair. Where will I find time to lead a team?" And no matter how hard she tried to convince me that I had what it takes, I refused to budge. It's just not the right time for me. In the end, she sighed, and then she said something that sounded like something from the art of Sun Tzu, but it stuck with me. She said, "Don't have a fear of the change. Instead, try to change that fear itself." Right? They're very powerful words. But it took me a while before I truly understood the meaning behind it. And at that time, perhaps I was justified given my priorities in life. But if I were to be honest about it, she was absolutely right. I had a fear of change, and I didn't read those signs about myself. So, what are some of those signs that you have a fear of change, right? Fear of the unknown, it's a given. You don't really fear the change. You fear what you don't know, what the unknown is. If you knew there was rainbows and a pot of gold waiting for you on the other side, you would absolutely embrace that change with open arms. Anticipatory anxiety. You worry about the future even before it happens. It's a little like, you're bleeding way before you're even cut. I was anticipating a change to my routine. I won't be able to control it. Time away from kids, personal stress, no basis for any of it, but it still made me anxious. Then there was the negative forecasting, right? You tend to expect the absolute worst. You predict how badly things can go. I won't be able to manage the team well. I'm not going to be able to manage their careers. They depend on me. My performance is going to get dinged. And then all of that leads into that avoidance behavior. You're shying away from new opportunities like people management, I didn't want the hassle of that, I told myself. And at one point, I decided I think I should just be a consultant so I don't have to worry about my career development, not have to deal with this type of change. And I'm sure many of you are thinking if I was given that opportunity, I would eat it up. And you should, right? I wish I had taken the time to self reflect on this, think of the ways I would overcome this fear. But life was just too busy. And as it does, life just moved on. So fast forward a few years working as a consultant, and then I joined Microsoft. And I love that place. It actually walks the talk when it comes to finding potential in women and growing them as leaders and nurturing them. From my very first manager to the one I have right now, I was blessed to work for people highly invested in my career growth. And yet something was holding me back. Like there was a recent study done, I think it was Harvard Business Review, that said that women leaders actually score much higher than men in 13 out of 19 leadership competencies. Resilience, agility, teamwork. Then there was another study that said that countries that are led by women better handle the COVID crisis. So fewer death rates, faster recovery, better communication. So clearly we have it. So why are the stats so low for women in leadership positions? I think, Harini, you were saying that earlier, that 25% of them are in senior management positions only. 17% are in board seats, 5% in CEO roles. So why is that, right? When you think of typical barriers that women face seeking leadership positions at work, not hard to see what that list is, right? Gender bias. Let's face it, it's real, it's there. As capable as qualified we may be, we're not always treated the same way. Lack of role models. If you don't see enough female leaders around you, it's very hard to envision what you would want to aspire to be. Work-life balance. It's a fact. We have more pressure to balance work and home than men do. And sometimes we do that to ourselves, the way I did, right? So these are barriers. This is that glass ceiling, right? Interestingly, I didn't face any of these barriers. My current manager, Mike, one of the finest humans I've ever met, right, doesn't see any bias except maybe against the French because he's British. But he's my strongest cheerleader. There's no dearth of role models around me either. My Skip, amazing executive leader, mother of 4. My CVP just sent her kid off to college. So many powerful women leaders that I work with that I can look up to. And to top it all, my family backs me up 100% to pursue whatever my heart desires. So what is it that was holding me back? Very simply, it was me. I had to learn to overcome my fears, my own insecurities, and embrace my potential to be a leader. We have it in us because we've been building it in different ways. And if there's one thing you can take away from my sharing today, I would say it's how I navigated that path, right? Acknowledge the change, grab it, face it head on. There's no other way. Even if it leaves you feeling a little bit raw, you're more ready for it than you think. I had led so many teams over the course of my career. I already had the muscle to be a leader. People were coming to me to be coached and mentored. I just had to acknowledge that myself. Be optimistic. Remember the value. Keep aside all the negative outcomes and think about all the great things that this change can bring for you and only focus on them. Make a list, like we were talking about. And every time you doubt yourself, look at that list. This is why you're doing it. And then don't sweat it. Don't overthink it. I know it's easier said than done, but sometimes stressing over the stress is the worst thing you can do to yourself. And then cultivating a support system. I think it's very, very important. Talk to people you trust. Understand why your manager thinks you have that potential. Talk to those who've been in your shoes and how they overcame this fear of change, this barrier themselves. I did that a lot. And then be open and deal with it. It's all those negative things you thought could happen, possibly will happen. But it's very much possible when they happen, if you can deal with it one day at a time, believe in yourself and the people that have faith in you, you can handle it, right? So change can be good or bad, exciting, scary, easy, hard. but it's also so necessary. It what makes us innovate, grow. In fact, my 60-year-old aunt actually says that all the time, that she recently started a startup, and she says that comfort is a dream killer. So get out of your comfort zone, find what you're made of, and see how far you can go. Embrace that change. You can learn something new, try something new, create some new value, shape some new realities for yourself and for others. So that's really all I wanted to share. Just, let me know how you feel about that, how you can relate to it. If you have any questions, any other thoughts you want to share. But that's my personal journey of embracing change and kind of brought me to where I am. And I've embraced that leadership role. One key evidence is I'm here talking to you all about it. And so thanks for that opportunity, and happy International Women's Day and month.